Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Deep in the Forest. I'm Pastor Roger, and with me is Mariah Crooks.
Hey guys.
And today we're going to bring a topic that is, it's very up to the day. I think that we've had this conversation, we've had these questions a lot, which is, should Christians celebrate Halloween? And there's no definite answer. I'll tell you straight up right now from the beginning of the podcast that we have our own personal convictions and we have our own set of values that God has placed us. And I will, persuade you to follow those things. Obviously, that means, whatever the answer comes, the outcome of this doesn't mean that we're out here just saying, like, if you don't follow these to the T, you're going straight to hell, and God's going to hit you with the lightning and it's going to be over from there. But I would advise, we're going to give you some information. And what ends up happening with information is that once you know this information, you have a conviction, or you should have a conviction.
Right.
If you're in ignorance, ignorance is bliss, turn this podcast off, right? Like, if you don't want to be convicted, if you don't want to do, the things that we believe, that's fine. But I would say that, after this information, obviously, we're going to try to make it so that it's a little bit more persuasive on, even since the beginning, we could say that, we try as much to not celebrate any of the pagan holidays, and Halloween is probably the most pagan, which has a lot of pagan roots and pagan traditions within it. So with that, so Mariah, you did a little bit of researching on this, right? So what did you find on Halloween?
So there's a lot of information out there, especially with internet-based research. So you get to go back into different cultural origins, even different just pagan religious categories. And essentially we know as Christians that if you're not worshiping the one triune God, you are worshiping Satan. And that comes in many forms. And Satan is a shape shifter, and he has fooled many different cultures and people groups throughout history ever since the garden. So even though there might be a bunch of different information on the internet, we all know it stems back to him and his influence. So we can rest assured, because I think I was looking at everything and I was like, which one is it? But from what I saw, from what I got from good old worthy Wikipedia, was is that a lot of it originated within the Celtic traditions, out of Germany, Wales, other regions in Europe. During the summer months, there were harvest festivals, kind of like our, American expression of Thanksgiving, where farmers and their families would give a portion of their crops, even their livestock, to just the gods, I guess, that they were worshiping at that time. So there was a lot of pagan idol worship and gods that they were sacrificing their production to. And with that tied in, in exchange for those sacrifices, they would then pray to those gods to, release loved ones from hell, or whatever their concept was at the time of an other world that was not good to them. And that's evolved and taken on different expressions even now. I mean, obviously, maybe whoever's listening to this, their first thought goes to the Roman Catholic Church and purgatory, and how those who practice Roman Catholicism know that you're supposed to be praying for those who are held in purgatory so that they get a shorter amount of time in there, or they just get out then and there. So there's this idea about praying to gods, or what they consider their God, on behalf of dead relatives, dead family members, dead friends.
In Spanish, like Dia de los Muertos was a big thing, which, that's how I grew up in Mexico and stuff like that, and I think that that's kind of like, so, but, as far as, because there's different cultures, and I'm sure every culture has kind of like adopted something. And so, from the 31st all the way to the 2nd of November. We have like
Mm-hmm.
this like almost celebration for the dead, whether it's American, Celtic, or Mexican, Spanish,
Exactly.
Spaniard, and stuff like that. So like, I mean, there's different interpretations.
Mm-hmm.
At which point, uh, we can rest assured that none of them are a holy. That God didn't tell the Jews
Right.
celebrate the dead. Quite the opposite, actually. He said like basically the dead are dead,
Yeah.
and I'll take care of them, and you take care
Exactly.
of the living, basically. So I think
Exactly.
that that's one of the best things too. One of the the prophet Samuel told Saul, don't be doing this. Don't
Yeah.
go to witches. Don't go to witchcraft. Don't go to talk to the dead. Don't seek the
Right.
dead. And so that was one of those things where it's like the Bible's clear about not seeking the dead, not praying to the dead, and not having this communication with them, because it's the only one that you should be trying to communicate with is Christ, right? So
Mm-hmm.
anything
Mm-hmm.
that takes away from Christ is a distraction from it, is
Mm-hmm.
not holy. It's and you can skin
Mm-hmm.
a cat the different ways, and you can try to bust backflips to try to make it so that it is. At the end of the
Right.
day, I don't think that Halloween or anything like that is bringing you closer to Christ,
Right.
in any form or celebration.
Right. Because some people might be asking now, like, okay, well, I don't do that.
Right.
I'm not trying to communicate with the dead.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything that you guys are talking about regarding its historical origins. So I'm safe. I just go buy fun little, decorations from Walgreens and Snickers on sale.
Yeah.
Like, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. And my question to you is, at what point are we being risky by participating in even just the modern day expressions? Or how safe is it,
Because I mean, obviously we when people, I think in American culture, they don't think of, oh man, we're praying to the gods. It
Right.
literally just is free candy for kids that dress
Right.
up, and even the kids that don't dress up, and then they just go trick or treating. They're just right there doing things, and they don't have meaning behind it. There's no
Mhm.
deeper, nothing really goes through their mind about dead or anything like that. But
Mhm.
I mean, the expressions, the modern day expression is still there. So to me, the Lord is very clear on some things, and which is like, if you're with me, if you sow the seed with me, you're either gathering or scattering. There's no in
Right.
between. So you're either making it happen or you're not.
Mhm.
And it's tough, and here's the thing, it's very difficult to live in a culture and to live in a world and to go against it.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
like the modern day expressions are to go trick or treating, to dress up, to maybe even as a church. The modern day things are having a harvest festival, a trunk or treat,
Right.
something that seems like a good good expression,
Family
having
friendly.
fun. Yeah, but I think it's just as dangerous. I wouldn't say more dangerous, because that's literally worshiping a gods, the gods, and this is more ignorantly participating in something that you don't know where the roots are or anything like that. So,
Right.
and I think we were kind of talking about that earlier, because it's not just about the roots, because
Mhm.
everything about our society has roots in something else,
Right.
like like we were looking at this from the
Southern Seminary.
Southern Seminary. They
Mhm.
said, like they had a good example, which they said, it's Thursday today, so it's like Thor's Day. So if you're not going to celebrate Halloween, then you can't say any of the
Yeah.
because of their origins, then you can't
Right.
say not even the Greek Greco-Roman calendar.
Yeah.
You can't celebrate anything. You can't use anything. You can't
Yeah.
use forks. It's just kind of like, where do you draw the line?
Exactly.
So I think
Exactly.
the line isn't really one that's going to be drawn at origins. I
Mhm.
think to me it's more about yes, there's modern day expressions of the origins,
Mhm.
but it goes further than that, because there's still people worshiping gods today,
Right.
and false gods, and they don't just worship other gods, they worship Satan.
Yeah.
Outright deliberately, they worship him.
Mhm.
Which this is one of the things that they've adopted, one of the nights that they've adopted, the
Mhm.
Satanists have adopted to to worship their their influence and to do whatever they're going to do. And that's somebody that I know used to be in Satanism. He told me straight up, like, yeah, this is pretty much like the night. This is this is what it is. And I mean, as a Christian, people have known that for a long time. Yet, this, you have this information, and still participate, and dress up as like
it's like every other day of the year we see tarot cards being sold and the Ouija boards being played, and we're like, oh, I could never. But on Halloween, we're like, it's Halloween.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I could never, but like maybe sometimes. Like, that's crazy. So we're so strict on some things and yet so relaxed on others,
Right.
So we don't want to be legalistic about whether, if you dress up ever, then that's it. You're satanic, like it's not about that. I think it's just more of a participation on the day that people have chosen to worship other gods and to worship Satan, to be even in a remote way, being part of that. Yeah. I think that's that we should be careful on that. We should really be careful on it. So which takes us to like, what should we do? I think there's two main fractions or main things that we could talk about. Participation within churches. Me as a pastor, I always think about that because I always have to think of what will my church do? What will the decisions that I make as a church leader, as a church goer, should my church be part of this? Should my church be, like, for example, the Harvest Festival, right? I think many churches have harvest festivals and they use it as the reason, like maybe that's the day that they want to reach out to the people. Why? Right. Because everybody's walking on the streets. Everybody is, outside and just like, it's an easy access. And I mean, we can afford cheap candy and put some lights up in the parking lot and just kind of have everybody come, especially if you're like in one of those neighborhood churches. Man, that's like the day, that's the night where you have so many people available that you probably wouldn't have outside of this night. Right. So it is tough, it is tough to make that decision as a church. So we at the Forest we have it easy this year because churches on there's Halloween, there's a church service on that night. It falls on a Sunday, right? So this year we didn't even have to make that decision, but every single year there's this decision as to whether as a church we should participate and do a harvest festival or go to the harvest festival or back somebody up on that. And I've declined as a pastor to do this, mostly because I feel like the influence that we put out, or like not the influence, but like we will put this information out to people and they will perceive it as participation. Right. So like, I mean, I'll dress up and I will go and ask for candy and I will say trick or treat and I will do all these things, but I'm not participating, it's not a participation. It's just that I'm being of the world without being of the world. It's like, no, I don't know, dude. Like, I feel like, and the Bible, and there's this verse that always convicts me, which is, we were talking about it earlier, is that, you shouldn't even have an appearance of evil because of that, in
1 Thessalonians.
So, and it's like, why risk that to other people who don't understand Christianity yet? And you're gonna appear as if you are participating, as if you are evil, and they're not gonna understand that. So as a church, I would recommend, if you do go to a church that participates in these things, I mean, asking why and maybe not even being part of those things, which is tough. That's tough. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. No. And as our podcasts have developed, I mean, we're just getting tougher and tougher, like it's like, man, now you're really having to like go to the roots of yourself and really put a question, and really have like your faith be yours, and have your own convictions rather than whatever else is doing. So what everybody else is doing.
True.
As a family or as an individual, that is where it gets more. It's based on just like your personal conviction.
Right. There's liberty that we can exercise, but if we're not as Christians, like trying to mold ourselves to other cultures and their celebrations, like why are we doing it for Halloween? Like why is that the one time we're actually like, participating, but we wouldn't do that for any other, celebrations that have been passed down. Yeah. We've really tried to abstain from, the way, obviously, and this is for another podcast, but the way we celebrate Christmas, the way we celebrate Easter, versus the way America does. And even too, like it just desensitizes you to real things. Like even if it's not because of like where it came from or the occult, like not only do some kids get scared by that, like I'm still scared. Like I can't go up to someone's house late at night, and see that like Dollar Tree like skeleton hanging. Like that's just weird to me.
I have nightmares based on those. Yeah.
See it in my sleep, dude.
Yeah.
But I mean, why dwell on those images of zombies and vampires and werewolves? It's just gross. They're usually bloody. They're usually eating humans in some way or terrorizing humans in some way. And so how have we come to the point where we look at that and we're like, oh, that's entertaining. Like that's fun. Like that's weird. That's so weird, especially in America.
It's morbid. It's morbid.
Like if you just didn't know about Halloween at all and you just were like planted into like America on October 31st when like everyone is trick-or-treating, that would look weird.
It did, yeah.
And so that's the thing, is like how do you engage the culture without condoning what they're doing?
See, because like I think you grew up with that, so you're just finally like you got desensitized to it.
Yeah,
I'm desensitized now. But I remember the first time that I saw that because I was older. I was 13 when I came to the States. So as an immigrant, when I was growing up, it was different. It was in the actual occult, right? Where my grandma used to take us to the cemetery and put like the Day of the Dead bread, like the dead bread on the I don't know. Like,
I think sometimes they're called soul cakes.
Soul cakes
in other cultures, yeah.
So, we would literally just watch it just disintegrate, and like the candles behind us just blow out. It was crazy. So go from like that, which is a real thing, and I thought, this I didn't even think this was fun at all. I thought I was legit scared. But to a level where you're just like respect, like you're just paralyzed. You don't even know what to do because you just saw something that is crazy happen. But then you come to America and you see these kids, who are just like dressed up like ghosts and like as like zombies and stuff, and you're like, just I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
and I mean you're desensitized, obviously.
And the parents tell them like, oh, it's just fake, especially for kids that get scared. And I get that, a lot of things we see in Hollywood, special effects makeup and different things. Like you're just trying to alleviate whatever anxiety is happening or coming up at the time by telling them, oh, it's fake. But you're doing a disservice to them by saying that too, because even though some of these more fantasy type creatures did come about through just different cultures, and they're not real in and of themselves, we know there's that demonic influence behind all of them. Yeah. And that is very real. Yeah. And we have to be vigilant to teach the next generation. Learn ourselves first, because, ignorance is bliss. And it's easy to like to participate in that stuff until, like you said earlier, once you learn about it, that conviction then just grows. And then to pass it along so that we are doing more to stand apart, and be set apart from the world. Because we want the world to continue to ask us as Christians, like, why are you different? Yeah, and if they're not asking us why we're different, then we're doing something wrong.
We're obviously not different enough.
Right.
Like we can't, we have no differentiation between one person to the other.
Exactly.
We're just blending in.
Exactly.
And I think that's so I mean it's harder when you get kids because kids want to have candy,
Yeah.
They want to have fun, you know.
Yeah.
They want to get along with their kids, their friends, you know, and everybody,
Mhm.
you know, the part of the whole Halloween thing, and why people have accepted it so much is because even when the Roman Catholic Church decided to kind of integrate it, you know, they slapped like a
Right.
family friendly just sticker on it and said, okay,
Mhm.
instead of being a cult, now it's for Christ somehow, you know. So
Right.
it's All Saints Day, and we're just gonna pray to saints.
Mhm.
Well, that didn't do it a service because now we think that hey, it's okay, we just get together, we have some bread, we eat, and we just paint or carve out like little um just pumpkins and stuff, and
Right.
we'll have a fun time. Well, that is not something that we should teach our kids, like hey, like to be part of the culture of the world, yet be secluded by ourselves. Like no, we have to be extremely counterculture
Right.
to what we have. So like what one thing that we would have done, that I would have liked to do, if and next year we will do it, is which I copied from somebody who copied it from somebody else, stole it from a thief. They're gonna take their kids to the movies, which they rarely
Oh.
do. You know, as a family, how many times do you really go to the movies? I hope you're not going like every weekend, right? Like
It's expensive.
well, yeah, it's like, bro, that popcorn, bro,
Yeah.
that's college tuition right there, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm gonna like get a loan, go to the movies, right? And then,
Put it on a credit card, obviously.
uh, that goes without saying. No, but like, I think as much effort as some people put into like doing all these Halloween events, the
Right.
costumes, the pumpkins, I mean, if you do, I know somebody that spent thousands on decorations just,
Mhm.
every Halloween, a pastor, by the way, you know?
Ooh.
So I'm not even gonna touch that. But, you see this person who, these people who are spending a bunch of money for what? For
Right.
something that's really counter Christianity.
Right.
Nah, man. What we try to do is, which isn't, I mean, I wouldn't even really say like this is probably a better culture, but going to the movies and stuff, going to
Sure.
dinner. I would like to go to dinner with my family, which is actually a good idea because on that night, how many people are really going to dinner?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the families are going to go out and do bunch of other stuff. So you go to Olive Garden, bro, and that 45-minute wait usually is now, 25 minutes or 40,
Exactly.
but that's fine
Yeah.
because now you get to interact with your children. You get to have,
Mhm.
all this time that maybe instead of eating all that candy, you're eating some healthier alternatives. There's so many
Right.
things that could come out of this that are actually
Right.
way more positive rather than like going through a sketchy neighborhood, dressing up as something weird,
Right.
getting all scared, like being traumatized. I mean, some of these
Mhm.
kids, yeah. So, um, there's so many things that could go negatively while you're doing something which is actually against the Lord.
Exactly.
And that's why the Lord says this, like it kind of goes into like God tells us like, hey, we shouldn't do this, and we kind of always question why, and we don't even question like what could be the benefit from obeying Him,
Right.
right? So like the benefit for me would be like to have a dinner with my family, which I rarely do,
Yeah.
if I usually worked on Halloween or whatever, a lot of people take it off just to be with their family, or their work kind of lets them go a little early or something, and instead of doing that, they're just going uh, to do something really negative.
Exactly. And the Lord, we have to go back to the fact that like the Lord isn't telling us to do or not do certain things just because, but it's because he loves
Yeah.
us. And maybe he doesn't reveal that in like immediately, but
Mm-hmm.
you see down the road like, wow, the Lord, really wants us to obey him in these ways for our benefit.
Yeah.
Not just to give him glory and like we're miserable or something,
No.
but the more we're obedient to him, the more we enjoy our
Yeah.
lives, and the safer we are,
Right.
obviously, like highly regarding this situation. And I think it's just our testimony to an outside world and to our own relationship with him. He's protecting us.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we didn't give you guys enough like reasons to not celebrate Halloween and to, I mean, write it down in the comments. We would like to say, we'd like to really respond to you. I mean, this is a heated argument. Some people really, they back this up with their life. So, I mean, if you guys do have any comments on that, we would like to know. But I mean, obviously, just from a spiritual sense, there's nothing there for you. A physical sense, there's nothing there for you.
Right.
And I mean, it's just time, relational, nothing, like there's nothing that you should be doing that is related to Halloween. So why do it at all?
Exactly.
Just focus on Christ, focus on your family, focus on spending time, with the ones you love, and do things that are going to be beneficial rather than malnutritional spiritually and
I like that.
physically. Yeah. So yeah. All right, guys, well, we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully this was helpful.
Bye, guys.